All right, y'all. I tried to do it at the same time so we have the same autonomy, so I have the same quality today. And I probably might do some more story times. I might do something while I'm driving. I don't know. I got to think of, when I'm driving around the city, I got to think of some topics as to where I'm going. You know what I'm saying? So what I might do, I got an idea. It's 4 o'clock right now. I will do this story time. I'll do a little bit more mixing, and where I need to go, where I was talking about in Vadnais Heights. Remember when I was talking about my pops having that last conversation just a year, maybe shy of a year before he passed. This song that I had been working on, remember I started doing a lot more recording and music because I went to IPR in 03, but I started trying to record seriously, you know, across really 2013, 2014, 2015, and doing a little bit. And I probably kind of stopped around 2016 because I started kind of devoting like, okay, I'm a senior citizen at this rap thing. I'm like 30 now, or, you know, might have been a little bit older, but I said, okay, I need to focus on something else. I think if I would have kept going or did it maybe a little earlier, I think I really could have did something. But I said, okay, this ain't paying me. And you need to crack about 100. It's 50 to 100 grand to crack a single. I said, I ain't about to. I could take 100 grand. If I take 100 grand, I could probably open my whole IT firm and probably make $1 million a year or something. I said, ain't no. I said, so I started doing tech training, and that was actually getting me money on top of what I was doing, being a Citrix administrator and working full time. So this is the real world, people. Like, not everybody going. I still love music, and I know how to mix and doing some mastering and stuff like that. But you got to go for what pays you, right? So this is a snippet that I uploaded for you guys before. Now this is a snippet of the food stamp song. This is one of my old songs, maybe like 7 years ago, and my homie Mike Titan made the beat, and the song was called Food Stamps. So it's talking about the stories and some of the things that I was saying, you know, in a lot of my, you know, early childhood, and a lot of the, you're going to hear a lot of things with the Ed Pearson stories. So we'll replay it. Let me turn it all the way up so it sounds good on the podcast.
To Washington and Cedar with food stamps, 2 for $1. Minute makes orange, we knew that. Hand-me-down clothes, surplus shoes, the new champ, tight Wrangler jeans. 7 more bargain, guess who's back? In 6th grade, they told us that his dad pays taxes, but this privileged fucker don't know niggas pay for that. Working in the hot sun without pay, so slave that. Kuta Kinte on your monkey ass, engrave that. Reading books at the library. Eyes scary, surprised to learn our country is savage. My dairy mixing the Netflix, so restless. Playing NES shit, done cut a Mario. We ain't have no Atari though. Young black kids brainwashed by Xena and Barbie though. Thought chivalry was a lot. Strolling up.
Okay, so this very first part, and then what we'll do is we'll go and we'll play the whole song, and we'll probably go back and forth between bits and pieces. I'm gonna try to wrap it up quick, but I don't know. Strolling up to Washington Cedar with food stamps. So what I'm talking about there, this is Washington and Cedar. I always talked about Washington Avenue and Cedar. Now, I'm trying to think, do I want to hit Minneapolis? But then I had to go the other direction. Whatever. Y'all might mess around and have me do it so y'all can get the whole. So Washington and Cedar. Remember, I did that video not too long ago where I was talking about Cedar Riverside. That's going more towards downtown. This right here, this Holiday Inn, that was my spot. I used to take, a lot of times them Somali cab drivers didn't want to drop us off in River Bluff, which was blocks down. They refused. So, and sometimes people wouldn't know where River Bluff was. You could say First and 20 if they wouldn't know where it was. So I'd be like, man, I would walk for like 3 blocks, just walk up from the house up to the hotel. You know where the Holiday Inn is? Everybody knows where the Holiday Inn is. I got some stories. That might have to be on Patreon, but the Holiday Inn, That's where a lot of times I'd meet my females and stuff like that, and we walk. Or right across the street right here where the bus, and we're going to do a little map. We're going to have to do a little map, y'all. Washington and Cedar Ave, Minneapolis. All right. This is Cedar and Washington right here. That's the courtyard. I'm just kind of giving y'all. This Chipotle's used to be this place. I forgot. It was a Ukrainian lady, or she was some immigrant. She had a strong accent. And the reason why I bring this up, I was a kid and I was bringing my food stamps, and she turned around, and one day we were just having a conversation. I don't know. I might have been 11, 12, 10, 11, 8. I don't know. I was very young. We walk up here, and right here there was a store. There was a pizza spot right here. Annie's Bar and Grill used to be right here. None of these buildings or apartments was right there. You see that Washington and Cedar? This was the epitome of my childhood. When you come around here, I'm getting excited because, you know, this was a damn epitome. Bullwinkles. I never really went up in there, but there was a pawn shop right here. That's where we had to pawn the Washington and Cedar, the VCR combo, which we were using the Jurassic Park on. That's Cedar Riverside right there. That's the Mixed Blood Theater right there. That's a corner bar. Took this little chick from St. Cloud up in there. Remember I told you, Darkness Falls, for real. Like, I'd go to Blockbuster. I'd take the number 7 bus right here, go to Blockbuster, and I'll be done. I could say that. I'll be done. That's Ed Pearson Part 4. I'm about to upload that, y'all. We about to get it cracking. This is going to be good. So I would take the number 7, and I'd take that over there where they burnt the police station down. I would take it right there. There was a Blockbuster right by the Wendy's where that AutoZone got burnt down. That's where I used to go to get all my Blockbusters. If I'm heading over north to Titan's house, I hop on the 19. Take the 19, you go mess with a little Northside broad, hop on the 5. You know what I'm saying? 19 to the 5. You take the 19 downtown. 19 will bring you all the way up to a certain part like Penn Avenue and stuff like that. So when I start kind of messing with the north side a little bit, I'd always take the 19. And you could take the 7. The 7 will bring you to the north side. So this is the Courtyard Marriott. Now, I remember it being green back in the day. It was like green or something like that. But yeah, this was Annie's bar, but let's get back to the song. Let's get back to the song. So I could kind of break it down even more. With food stamps, 2 for $1. Minute Maid's orange, we knew that. 2 for $1. Minute Maid's orange, we knew that. 2 for $1. Minute Maid's orange. There you get 2 Minute Maid's orange. They 59 cents a piece. It was 2 Minute Maid oranges for $1. We knew that. So you get 2 for $1 Minute Maid orange, and then you get a Snickers. So I'd bite my little Snickers, eat it a little bit, swallow it, and then I'd take a sip of Minute Maid. I don't know how we survived off of all that fructose garbage, but that's what we used to do. We used to walk up there and do that. Hand-me-down clothes, surplus shoes, the new champ. I said hand-me-down clothes, surplus shoes, the new champ. Over north, there was a surplus building. If you go back to some of my north side videos, there was a building that was by the Erder station. I'm using the M word, by the Erder station, the Honeycomb Honeybee Erder station. It was maybe a block up and the freeways on the side used to get your surplus shoes. Tight Wrangler jeans, 7-mile bargain, guess who's back? Tight Wrangler jeans, 7-mile bargain, guess who's back? So 7-mile bargain, you get the knockoff clothes and stuff like that. That's where everybody used to go. In 6th grade, they told us that his dad pays taxes, but this privileged fucker don't know niggas pay for that. So in 6th grade, when I was going to Ann Sullivan, there was this little dude, this little white dude he was talking about food stamps. Now, I didn't know that most of the people that receive welfare is white. They use that old, the welfare queen. I think that was around with the Nixon or Bush or Reagan. I think Reagan or something like that. That welfare queen. They put that on black women. Man, it's none but white women that got that. It's none but white women. It's mostly white women on SNAP benefits. Mostly white folks. You go to some little backwood Indiana town, Wisconsin, and all that. That's who's really on food stamps. It's black folks too, but they the main ones. 90%. And so he was making the claim that, well, you're on food stamps. Now, I never said anything about food stamps, but he assumed I was on food stamps. You see what I'm saying? So that's something that he got that from his father. So he says, y'all on food stamps. And that's why I made the song Food Stamps. But I remember he said, it was like in 5th grade or 6th grade or something like that. He said, oh, you're on food stamps. My dad pays his taxes for that.
Working in the hot sun without pay, so slave that.
So I said,
paid for that. They told us that his dad pays taxes, but this privileged fucker don't know niggas pay for that. Working in the hot sun without pay, so slave that. Kuta Kinte on your monkey ass. Taxes, but this privileged fucker don't know niggas pay for that. Working in the hot sun without pay, so slave that. Kuta Kinte on your monkey ass. Engrave that.
So I let the little white dude know. Now, this was probably before I watched Kunta Kinte. I was like 4th, 5th grade. And it might have been, matter of fact, we might have watched Roots in 6th grade. I know we watched it in 7th or 8th grade for a fact. 7th grade for sure. So it might have been 6th. But I said, we paid for that. Y'all had the Marshall Plan. Y'all had all these I'm white not say so benefits. Left and right, the Marshall Plan, the GI Bill, they just land grant colleges, as Dr. King said. Nothing but freebies upon freebies. They are the kings of welfare. Race soldiers are the pharaohs of freebies, as I call it in my 2nd book. They got nothing but free benefits and handouts. George Washington, all the founders, they are the pharaoh of freebies. Nobody got more handouts than them. That's a fact. That's not up for the debate. And so I was letting him know, shit, my ancestors worked in fields and wasn't paid. You want to start talking about welfare and this, that, and the third. So, that shut him down real quick. So I said, Kunta Kinte on your monkey ass. Engrave that in your brain. You know what I'm saying? So that's why when I was making the song, that's what I was thinking about.
Reading books at the library. Eyes scary, surprised to learn our country is savage.
I said reading books at the library. Eyes scary, so I'm looking at these things that I'm hearing about, and then later I read the book with the Black Holocaust with John Henry Clark. Reading books at the library, eyes scary, surprised that our country is savage. My dairy, so I'm saying my dairy with we used to mix the strawberry Nestle Quick with the milk. You see?
Dairy mixing the Netflix so restless. Scary surprise to learn our country is savage. My dairy mixing the Netflix so restless. Playing NES shit, Duck Hunter Mario.
Mixing the Nesquik so restless. Playing NES shit, Duck Hunter Mario. We ain't have no Atari though. So Duck Hunt and Mario, that was a thing in the 80s. If you had Duck Hunt and Mario came with the Nintendo. It came with the Nintendo. And I think it came with the gun too.
We ain't have no Atari though. Young black kids brainwashed by Xena and Barbie though.
So young black kids brainwashed by Xena and Barbie though. Y'all got to understand something about Minneapolis. Minnesota, as I said, like with Dred Scott and all this kind of stuff, because you got to think, we are in proximity to white folks. It's not segregated like Chicago and Milwaukee and different places. So we thinking, oh, it's okay just because we're eating. You go out here to some of these suburbs. My dad used to drive us around Lake of the Owls. You start messing around out there, uptown Lake of the Owls. You start going out to some of these suburbs. Man, listen, ain't no black folks out there like that. They might play ball, might be a couple business owners. You not gonna have a large amount. You're not gonna see black. It ain't like Atlanta when you go to some of these suburbs and black suburbs in different places, Chicago, where you could see rich black motherfuckers that got money in abundance. There's places in the United States like that. It's not like that in Minnesota. You're not gonna find. We don't have a black what they call the black boule bougie class of just a whole bunch of niggas with $500,000 homes, $15 million home here, $5 million home here, $2 million. It ain't like that. It's one. It's one Negro that plays ball or might own a software engineering company or something like that. It might be one or two. It ain't one here and then one there, and you wave to your neighbor and he's. Now I told y'all about Summit Avenue. I've never met a black person that stays on Summit Avenue. And that's not considered the suburbs, but y'all saw those houses that I showed you. Ain't no black folks on Summit Avenue. I've never seen a black person come out of that house in Summit Avenue, and you rarely see people come out the house anyway. I've never met anybody. I don't know anybody that knows a black person that's ever had a house on Summit Avenue. There might be one, just one, maybe, right over there by the Capitol. When I used to do Uber and I'm looking at something, there's places I've seen in Maple Grove. I'm like, damn, they living like this. You don't see enclaves like that. You have to go to Chicago, Atlanta, DC. They say Baldwin Hills and LA, stuff like that. We don't have that in Minnesota. So when we grow up seeing Xena Warrior Princess, and remember the Black Barbie thing, they used to see, we see these images. And we see, okay, those are the folks that have something. Cosby kind of humanized it. We're like, oh, man, they living good. I'm like, damn, you know what I'm saying? When we watched the Cosbys, we were amazed, like, damn, they living good. You see what I'm saying? That's not something you typically see here like that. So that's why I say brainwashed by Xena and Barbie, though, Xena Warrior Princess. You know what I'm saying? You're not turning on the TV and seeing a bunch of people now. Like my wife told me one time, she said in Milwaukee and Chicago, like when you go there, growing up, they would see billboards of black folks, and you know you have black neighborhoods, and there's places where black people that are doing well. You don't have nothing like that here. You have Northside Minneapolis. It's a few black folks. A few might own some homes, but what I'm saying is maybe up Golden Valley, it's some black folks that got some money, but I'm talking about money. I'm talking about like Bentley money, Ferrari money, Vineyard money. We don't have that here. They got to play ball, or, you know, they might own maybe a manufacturing plant or something like that, or maybe an IT firm. But generally, you're not going to have that. And if you do, he probably with a white woman. I'm just keeping it real. Not all the time, but that's, he's going to have to ingratiate himself 100% into white society to a certain degree where, he don't really become too accessible to other black people. That's the trade-off. You see what I'm saying? Like, there was a dude that owned a construction company over north. I never met him. I think the guy passed. I think it was called Thor Construction, but it was a whole big building. I don't know if the building's still there, but it was brand new, like it was new. And I was working with some people and nonprofits at one point in time, and I was like, hey, what's up? Is he interested in getting brothers into IT or something like that, or doing, whatever it is? Like, people like, man, he's not accessible to us. And then I think something happened where it was a big lawsuit or whatever the case may be. Let me double check, because I don't want to just be up here. Let me see. But I remember having that conversation with an older guy. Yeah. Look. Yeah, right here. After multiple lawsuits, the largest minority-owned construction company ran into irrevocable financial woes. I don't know what happened, but yeah, I remember this. Thor worked on projects for large corps, including Target, Excel, achieved major accolades, named Minnesota Entrepreneurial Success of the Year by the U.S. Small Business Administration of 2013. What happened? You see how quick they like, hey, what happened? The company won't take on any new work. The current projects are being handed off to other firms. In January, St. Paul-based Sunrise Banks, a key lender for Thor, sued the company for more than $3 million in unpaid debt. That seemed to open up the floodgates of lawsuits from Evansville, Indiana, Old National Bancorp, Monticello-based Manufacturing and Metal Services. I mean, man, that was the founder. I never met the brother. Whatever. What I was told is he was not accessible to us. And the person that told me this, I know they wouldn't lie because they were a business person and very, very successful. I won't say who, but that's what was told to me. Look what happened. I don't know what happened with the lawsuit. It might have been some flim flam, or there might have been a targeting. But see, let me tell you something. And this happens. This is common practice. When black folks figured that they could insulate themselves with the dominant society and white society, and I don't need those Negroes over there, I won't talk to them. You see what happens. That happens all the time. That happens when they rock with us. But when you start stepping away from your folks, they know. See, the dominant society understands that if you're not really gonna rock with your people, we ain't gonna rock with you. So now, I'm not saying that was the reason why it closed. I'm not sure. They said it's lawsuits. So he wasn't paying some bills or something. So it might have been some flim flam going on. I don't know. But, I remember that. I never forgot that. But now that dude, that's a prime example. I think he passed. I'm not sure. I heard that he passed or something happened. I don't know. But maybe it was health problems and I don't know. I think I can't remember if he had passed or not. But that's my point to y'all. I don't know. Let me see. So it got founded in the 80s. It got founded in the 80s. So I'm looking on LinkedIn. I'm trying to. They got sued pretty bad. Let me see if I can get more details. I don't know if they're still in business. Man, yeah, they ain't. Yeah, the website don't even work. Let me see if I can find out some more stuff. But I think it got. No, they ain't it. That's another Thor. Yeah, he passed. I wasn't lying. Yeah, the brother passed, man. And he was doing his thing at one point. He passed back in 2017. You see what I'm saying? Terminal cancer. So yeah. So he started his construction company with a single truck in 1980. 25 years old with a baby on the way. His North Minneapolis neighbors dubbed him Sanford and Son. Barb reference to the 1970s TV comedy. He said race was a factor in the beginning, Copeland said in 2017. Copeland said he was reminded of that early on with a white competitor scrawled Thor on Copeland's pickup truck. The hammer-wielding god from Norse mythology was fitting for a construction company, so Copeland kept it. So he basically took a race soldier's disrespect and turned it into something constructive, literally. After founding it in 1980, the company grew over years to amass some 200 employees, $370 million in revenue and projects all over, making it one of the nation's largest owned black businesses. Closed its doors in 2019 after experiencing financial difficulties, unpaid debts. So, so he passed March 20. It looks like that was 2017. March 20. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what happened, but it was a $35 million headquarters. Copeland plans to leverage the success of his business to spur an economic renaissance in a community crushed by the Great Recession and still struggling to recover nearly a decade ago. We see North Minneapolis as an asset, not a liability. So, I mean, that building, man, I'm telling you. We'll dig more into that and what happened. This is when they were, he was putting it together. So we'll do into that. So I don't, maybe he wasn't accessible just to that one person. But what I'm saying is when y'all ask, like, Black folks, it ain't a whole lot of black folks here that's like him. That successful is what I'm saying. It's not a dime a dozen. It's a few. You see what I'm saying? It's not like other cities. So we don't grow up seeing that. We never seen anything like that. You know, I saw that later in my life. Like, oh, this is one of the largest black-owned construction firms in the country. I don't see that like that. So the guy that told me he's not accessible, maybe he didn't return his calls, or maybe it more was one of them things where it's like, man, I ain't trying to rock with y'all like that. But looking at that article, he seemed like he wanted to invest in the north side. There's black folks on the north side, so you know. But what I'm telling y'all is history repeats itself. If you are a black person and you doing your thing and you do your best to try to kind of stay away from black folks, it usually don't end well. It don't. But you know, I don't know. I don't know what happened, but I mean, it was successful as hell. I suspect some flim-flammery. I suspect foul play. Me. That company was running tip-top great at one point in time. What happened? Did somebody start? Because a lot of time when you're successful like that, they start with the flim-flam. They start messing with you. But maybe he just got sick. Maybe he just got sick. You know what I'm saying? Who knows? Anyway, so now y'all can kind of get an idea when I say Xena Warrior Princess brainwashed by Xena and Barbie though. You know, we grew up seeing the white Barbie dolls. I don't recall seeing a bunch of black Barbie dolls, you know what I'm saying? So that's imagery that's going into your head. And you're not used to, like my homie Jay, when he went down to Atlanta, he said, man, it's black folks with businesses. They riding around with car washes, mobile car wash. I never heard no shit like that. I said, what? He said, yeah, man. He said, man, these Negroes down here. I remember Josh G was like, man, these Negroes down here, they pull their old schools with their Benzes showing out. Young dudes, 19, 20. He said, I said, what do you mean they pull them? He said, man, when they stunt, they got a Benz, not no little BS Benz. I'm talking about the 550. They'll pull their old schools with the Benz. They'll hitch the old school with the Benz. I said, so you telling me they got $100,000 Benz? He said, man, they don't give a damn about that Benz. He said they treat their Benzes like shit and treat their old schools above the Benz. So their time machines are considered to be above the Benz. They when they go to like car shows and stuff, he said they use the Benz to pull the old school. He said that's how well they doing down here. He said, man, they got houses, mansions. I didn't believe it. I said, man, that's like that's like Wakanda. I said, that's like Wakanda. I said, what? I didn't believe it. He said, no. He said, man, niggas lazy in Minnesota, bro. He said, ain't nobody giving you nothing in Atlanta. He said, when you broke and you a bum, you broke. You ain't getting nothing. You can't. He said, like in Minnesota, you can just kind of sit around and not do nothing and just be all mediocre. He said, you can't do that here down here in Georgia. He said, he said, when you broke down there, you like under the bridge ain't getting nothing. He said, you ain't getting a dime. Ain't nobody helping you with shit. I couldn't believe it. I said, wow. He said, man, black. He said, a lot of the sisters, they got salons. He said, everywhere. He said, if you're an entrepreneur and you ain't lazy, that's a place you go. He said, it's damn near like a Mecca. Now I heard it's being gentrified now or whatever, but that's what he was telling me. So now I understand why he left. To be around folks that want to make some real money. And he went down there and got a bunch of semi trucks and stuff. Something he probably wouldn't have done up here. You see what I'm saying? So, you know, shout out to Atlanta for that. But that boggled me. I couldn't believe it. The businesses and the things that people were doing down there, it was a place that incubated entrepreneurs. We didn't see anything like that here. You got folks that might sell some dope, might have a couple haircutting places, but a mobile car wash. I was like, a what? A mobile car wash? He said, yeah, man, they drive around with mobile trucks and pull up to you. And, you know, now I start seeing that later in Minneapolis. But in Atlanta, they've been doing that for forever. They empower the entrepreneur. They want the entrepreneur to win. That's why a lot of artists went down there to work with different artists. And you know, Atlanta had the music game, whether you like it or not. They had it on lock because they worked together. Folks are working together. Even if they don't like each other, they're working together. And that's how they were able to control the music thing. The strip club and the music going hand in hand. we don't have anything like that here. We don't have anything like that. I've never seen anything like that. So that's what I was talking about when it comes to like the black neighborhoods and all that kind of stuff. It's enough black folks where it could be like that. It should, but it's not. You have to go, you go on the east side of St. Paul, there's no quote unquote affluent Tulsa. There's no affluent north side. It's not. You don't see black folks lined up house upon house upon house upon a million here, 2 million here. It's not like that. It might be one here, then you go 50 blocks there, and then it's maybe another or whatever. It's not like that. It's not like that. So, you know, we'll go back to it real quick. So that was the song. So now I'm going to play it in entirety. I'm going to play it in entirety from start to finish. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to let y'all hear it. And then I'm just going to export these files. So we'll start from the very beginning. That was a snippet. And then I'll probably upload the song another time. And I'll break it down piece by piece. I'm gonna try to knock it out in like 10 minutes. And then I might see if I could go down there to Vadnais Heights and find that building. Matter of fact, before we do that, hold on. That's why I was going so slow. I got Winterstat running. Let me see if I can find the building in Vadnais Heights. They moved it to Mankato. Okay, let me see if I can find something. And I just need the address. There we go. I think I found it. Vadnais Heights. Okay, what's the address? That's all I need is a damn address. Damn, it won't show it. Because that's the place where I went to go talk to my dad before he passed. And Vadnais Heights, so a machine operator had a review on Indeed. I'm trying to get the address. I could probably find it. Show more. Okay, that's not showing me nothing. Maybe it's not public because they just don't want people to know where it is. But, damn, man, it's bringing me back. It's really, really bringing me back, man. You know what I'm saying? Because, and see, you got to be analytical in IT. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna show y'all my search process since we here. So there's an article right here at Star Tribune. Pledges of job growth fall short at Coloplast. Almost $4 million in public aid backed as Minneapolis for city, which has lost, not added jobs. But it's not letting me see. It wants me to pay for this BS. Hold on. Let me see if I can find it somewhere else. See, this is how you get around that part. Employment dropped from 381 to 287. Let me see if I can and this is how you do that. So you do a save as. That's how you do that. If you want to get past that, you do a save as, or you do a print, and then you save it as a PDF. Yeah. I'm telling you, I ain't paying for that damn Star Tribune. Yes, sir. But let's say if it lets us read. And this is 2011. Now remember, this was well after I closed my shop. At around this time, I probably was getting ready to work in Burnsville. You know what I'm saying? But that's the new building. Y'all seen that when I had my North Side video. But it says delivering his State of the City speech in 2009, Mayor Ryback stood in the Northside let me see here. Where's Vadnais Heights? He said it'll come back. So they said Coloplast last week blamed the employment numbers on the worsening economy, shipping manufacturing jobs overseas. Democrats? Was that Democrats in 2009? I don't know. Let me see if I can find Vadnais Heights right here. There we go. Vadnais Heights. So this is basically a Federal Register online. I'm trying to find something with an address so I could go show y'all that address. Otherwise, I'll probably just drive around there and try to see if I can find it, because it's not too far. I have an idea where it is. So yeah, I just want to show y'all the building. There used to be a building over there. Acquired the Urology Division of Mentor Corp, which had a facility in Vadnais Heights, and then built a new facility on West River Road. So they just moved it. They had a facility and they put it on West River Road. So it says during the construction of their new facility in Minneapolis, I remember they were doing some construction around that, some years ago. Coloplast temporarily moved 100 manufacturing jobs to Vadnais Heights. And so that's when I was at Vadnais Heights. So, I'm going to find it. I'll try to do that as a story time. So let's go back here.
I remember them food stamps, man. Government cheese, carnation milk. Check this shit out. Strolling up to Washington and Cedar with food stamps, 2 for $1. Minute makes orange, we knew that. Hand-me-down clothes, surplus shoes, the new champ, tight wrangling jeans. 7 my bargain, guess who's back? In 6th grade, they told us that his dad pays taxes, but this privileged fucker don't know niggas pay for that. Working in the hot sun without pay, so slave that. Kuta Kinte on your monkey ass, engrave that. Reading books at the library. Eyes scary, surprised to learn our country is savage. My dairy mixing the Netflix so restless. Playing NES shit, done cut on Mario. We ain't have no Atari though. Young black kids brainwashed by Xena and Barbie though. Thought chivalry was alive until I met some sorry hoe. And then I realized society is cutthroat. The law ain't shit and they still don't give a fuck though. The food stamps, Minute Maid's orange, guess who's back? Paragon cable cut off, we knew that. Rain Z.
Paragon cable cut off, we knew that. Xfinity used to be called Paragon Cable, y'all. Paragon cable cut off, we knew that. Our Paragon cable was off and on. Like I said, we didn't know we were poor because we had food. We had food stamped under my mama's name. My dad wasn't on the paperwork. I want y'all to understand that. So when I seen the Cosbys, I thought that was just a TV show. I did not know that black folks had money like that. We did not see black lawyers and doctors on a regular basis. So, when I got older and my homies, and I was way too old not to know this. I got older and I heard stories about Tulsa and Nicodemus, Kansas and stuff like that way back in the 1900s. And then I got to learn about Atlanta. And somebody told me, man, there's a bunch of black folks living in the suburbs with big ass houses and Bentleys and Ferraris and shit outside. I said, impossible. What? Because you used to seeing a place where everybody's broke. I'm not talking about the trap boys that might have a Chevy Caprice on blades and stuff like that. That's broke nigga shit. I'm talking about real money where black folks have manufacturing plants and firms and stuff like that on a regular basis. That was non-existent in Minnesota. You'll have a basketball player. You might have a Thor construction company here and there. But I'm talking about the city is just full of black folks that got stuff. I didn't know that existed until I heard about Atlanta, Georgia. You would have had to leave Minneapolis to see something like that, is what my point was.
And they still don't give a fuck though. The food stamps, Minute Maid's orange, guess who's back? Paragon cable cut off, we knew that. Rain Z 7 mile, the food stamps. The food stamps, Minute Maid's orange, guess who's back? Paragon
playing ball at Matthews Park a couple years at Seward School. So Matthews Park, I showed y'all Matthews Park before, and a couple years at Seward School. So I went kindergarten, I went first grade, second grade, and then we went to Ann Sullivan Communications Center from third grade to eighth grade. That's when I started seeing a lot of the early LGBT stuff. I didn't know what it was, but a lot of the teachers were LGBT. I didn't know. I mean, we knew something was different, but we started noticing we on the basketball court and we used to say the F word. Oh, you F-A, you know, G, so-and-so, so-and-so, oh, you N-I-G, you know what I'm saying? We used to, oh, you can't say that. They pull us off the court. Oh, you can't say that word. And I'm like, what? This is typical black talk when we on the court. We calling each other names, we bumping each other, we might fight, you know, all kind of little stuff like that. They were serious about that, like they was gonna suspend you over saying that. I said, well, hold on, you can't say that. Like, I started noticing things start getting weird around that time. But you know, from third grade to eighth grade, remember I got suspended in seventh and eighth grade. From third grade to eighth grade, I went to Ann Sullivan. Then I went to South from ninth grade to 12th, well, 9th to 11th grade. Then I went to WLC for 12th grade.
That bring the G7 mail, the food stamps, playing ball in Matthews Park a couple years at Seward School. No TV on Friday and Saturday night, we knew the rules.
So no TV on Friday and Saturday night because my dad was the Seventh Day Adventist, so we couldn't watch TV Friday night sundown to Saturday night sundown. You know what I'm saying? Those were the rules.
A couple years at Seward School. No TV on Friday and Saturday night, we knew the rules. Niggas getting popped for their bull starter jackets, looking out the window what pops old ride through all the traffic.
So my dad had an old school, Oldsmobile. That's why I started to like the Oldsmobiles. They're very reliable. Niggas getting popped over bull starter jackets. You couldn't wear a Chicago bull starter jacket in Minneapolis like that. Folks would think you a blood or a vice lord. You get killed for that. I always wanted the Chicago Bulls starter jacket because it was dope. I might get me one, but back then you couldn't wear no Bulls starter jacket like that and not have problems. If you had, first of all, if you had a starter jacket, let's break this down even more. If you had a starter jacket in general, you might come up off that starter jacket. If you have a fresh pair of J's and a starter jacket and you ain't really got no little pull in the street, or you weren't kind of feared a little bit, or you no hands or you ain't had no weapon or nothing like that, you coming off that starter jacket. Dudes getting you up out that starter jacket. If you had a Bulls starter jacket, you liable to get your ass whooped. Unless you was somebody that, you know, like, but just if you get a kid walking around, you in the hood and you ain't affiliated or plugged in with nobody or whatever, and you got a Bulls starter jacket and a pair of J's, oh, they taking your J's and your Bulls starter jacket. You coming up off that Bulls starter jacket. Because that was the thing. Bulls was the SHIT at that time. And then it was signified, you had the Red Rags and the Lords used to I think they used to wear the starter jacket. Definitely the Bloods used to wear the Bulls, but that red and black used to kind of. So yeah, you might be in some trouble if you had that, because it was a cold ass jacket. A lot of people wanted the jacket, but you know, you might get questioned about that jacket if you go to certain places. So, but I wanted it anyway, because I had the mindset where, you know, I was a kid, but I wasn't gonna let nobody take my jacket. But somebody might pull a weapon on you for that jacket. But I wasn't going in a lot of those areas where I would have had to worry about it so much. See, the Riverside, ain't nobody really gonna mess with your jacket like that. But if you going on Franklin in the 20s and all, and you might run into some issues with that jacket. In the 90s, yeah, hell yeah. You gonna run into on Lake Street, somebody might, you know. I always wanted the Bull starter jacket. It was always my favorite color. I always liked the big bulls in the back. So this is what happened. I ended up still getting a Bulls jacket, but it didn't have the big red bull in the back. It had just bulls in the front. And, you know, I can't remember what happened to that jacket. I think I did have that, but I knew I had the Notre Dame. the Notre Dame, I think my older brother had the Notre Dame, or somebody in the neighborhood had the Notre Dame, and it was a little older at that time, or it wasn't, and somebody gave me that Notre Dame jacket. And I remember when I got it, it was like a blue Notre Dame jacket, the Fighting Irish. But the starter was in the back of the hood. So you had to pull the hood over your head. So when you walk past kids, when you coming on the bus, they get to see, oh, he got the starter jacket. Like that was a big thing. You had respect when you had a starter jacket back then. You got mad respect. Like, oh, we got the new starter. Or even if it was it's still a starter jacket. If you had a starter jacket, you was the man. You was the man. You got a lot of respect. Oh, he could dress. And a lot of kids had it. Some kids didn't have it. But that was a big thing. That was a big thing. I'm just letting y'all know.
Minute makes orange, guess who's back? Paragon cable cut off, we knew that. Bring the Z7 mile, the food stamps playing ball.
Now you would kind of get clowned a little bit if you had Wrangler jeans because they were tight and they were kind of thick. So remember when they used to talk about like Cash Money and them, they talk about soldieries and jabots. When Cash Money came out, we was already rocking jabot jeans, but that was a thing to have soldieries. Here, dudes didn't really want to rock the Reeboks. I always liked the soldieries, the all black soldieries. They called them soldieries because of Soldier Slim. That was a thing in New Orleans, soldieries and jabots. So they have jabots and then they have on a pair of Reeboks. I like the Reeboks because they were real comfortable. So I was one of the few homies where I'd always have a pair of soldieries on. I would get the all black Reebok Classics. While everybody was getting the Air Force Ones and this, that, and the third, I always liked the Reebok Classics. So, and I did have a pair of jabots. I had a pair of jabots. I don't know what year that was, but I had a pair of jabots. And, that was a thing. Soldieries and jabots. Or jabots and some Jordans or something like that, or some flights. That was a big thing. That was a real big thing. And but we had Wranglers when we was kids, and the Wranglers were uncomfortable. They were all, so you sometimes you got clowned if you had some Wranglers on. You'd be the subject of jokes. Now if you were clean or whatever, you might be able to get past, but Wranglers weren't something that, dudes was in the Levi's and they was in the jabots. Eventually we got to the platinum FUBU and stuff like that.
Cable cut off, we knew that. Bring the Z7 mile, the food stamps playing ball in Matthews Park a couple years of sewer school. No TV and Friday and Saturday night, we knew the rules. Niggas getting popped for their bulls, starter jackets, looking out the window. What popped old ride through all the traffic of Frosty and Wendy's was 99 cents.
Now Frosties, that was a big thing. You could get a Frosty at Wendy's for 99 cents. Popovers at Ponderosas. Them popovers at Ponderosa was fire. I think Ponderosa was on Lake. I don't remember where it was. Was it St. Louis Park or Lake or something? But Ponderosa was fire.
Looking out the window, what popped old ride through all the traffic of Frosty and Wendy's was 99 cents. And popovers to Ponderosa was hella intense. He left a few days. Mama, how we paying the rent? Pounding this VCR combo. What he saying they shit.
So how we gonna pay the rent? So my mom, I told y'all, my mom was pissed off about that because my dad left and went out of town. He did something, and we didn't really have no food in the house really like that. And, so we brought the VCR combo and sold it. And I was like, you think he'll be mad or whatever? And my mom was like, man, I don't give a damn if he's mad. You left us in the house without no damn food. So I could see there was a lot of friction there. So this was probably after 94, maybe 95, 96. You see what I'm saying? It was definitely after 94 because Jurassic Park came out. So she was mad about that.
What he saying they shit. So we walked to Washington and Cedar. We knew that. No food in the refrigerator.
No food stamps.
Peanut butter and Nestle Quick.
We'll use that. So peanut butter and Nestle Quick. Before we went to the pawn shop, we didn't have no food in the house. And my mom was kind of prideful. Like she wasn't going to call my grandma. Now, my grandma was retired. She worked at Cargill many years, and she had money. This probably was after when my grandpa had passed in 92. So my grandma, she was never without. But I don't even think she told her what happened till maybe later. She didn't even let her know what was going on because my grandparents didn't really approve of my mom with my dad. Number one, they felt he was a lot older, and they felt like he should have been more financially stable. They felt like I'm gonna be honest, they didn't feel like my pops was taking care of business. They felt like, okay, my mom, you got my daughter over here, you know, living in this section 32 or section 8, and you ain't on the paperwork. You should be working, having money, and it's always unstable. You see what I'm saying? But you got these kids down here and you're not stable enough, and you're older than her. So they felt a certain way. They did not approve and did not like that. So they felt, you know, my grandparents, they were like, well, she's grown, you know what I'm saying? But they did not approve. They didn't like it at all. They felt a certain way, like, man, she ain't supposed to be living like that. You know what I'm saying? That's how they looked at it, especially, and I think they looked at the age gap too, like, okay, well, yeah, she's 30. She was 30 when she had me, and he was 50. So years later, you got to think, I'm probably maybe 10, 11, 12 at this. So now they looking over a period of time, and they feel like you got my daughter 10 years later in this same situation. So they really, really, really did not like my pops. They never said anything. They told me things after, when I got older, stuff I had questions, because sometimes I have questions about, how did my mom meet and them, or what y'all think or whatever. But, so they tell me these things that I know now, where they're like, they wasn't feeling them. They felt like he wasn't handling his business. But, they're like, well, she's grown, so we'll tolerate him. But they did not like him. They never liked him. They never wanted them to be, they never wanted her to marry him. And they felt like he was kind of a liability. And that's you got to think, as parents, you see your daughter making these decisions, you not gonna like it. If you're a parent that gives a damn about your children, you are not going to like nor approve if you feel that the man that they're dealing with can't handle his own like you think he should. You see what I'm saying? You're not gonna approve. That's just natural. That's basic that's genetics. That's common sense, logic, and genetics. You're not gonna like it.
Welfare babies, amused at me. So, refrigerator, no food stamps, peanut butter, and Nestle Quick. We'll use that. Y'all some welfare babies. Amused at
y'all some welfare babies. Amused at me. So I'm making a reference to that little white dude that I had to remind. Hey, the Marshall Plan. Now I didn't know that at that time with the Marshall Plan, but I knew enough about slavery. Like, okay, we built this country. Everything your folks have gotten, yeah, you might have did a little work, but your white skin allows you the benefit of whiteness and acceptance, to where, yeah, your ancestors, they didn't have to deal with the stuff mine did. So you kind of got a free ride, you little white dude. You kind of got a little free ride. So that was kind of that was another dig towards him. Like, he said, oh, y'all some welfare babies. Amused at me. You see what I'm saying? So that was going back to him again.
Nestle Quick, we'll use that. Y'all some welfare babies. Amused at me. XJ900s and Pro Wings, but you
XJ900s and Pro Wings, but you happy. XJ900s and a pair of Pro Wings, you getting clown for that. Wrangler jeans, XJ900s, and Pro Wings, because sometimes we'd have some name brand stuff, and then it will be some off-brand stuff where we would go to 7 Mile Bargain, or we go, it would be some little janky off-brand fake Boss shirt or whatever the case may be. I think I got that a lot older when I was 14, 15. I worked summer jobs. So I'd buy my own clothes once I got a summer job. But like back in the day, them early 90s, 4th, 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, Pro Wings and XJ900s, oh, you getting roasted. That's how we learned how to do roast. You getting roasted bad. Oh, it's going to be brutal. You come to school with some XJ900s or Pro Wings, yeah, you getting roasted. And don't wear no Bugle Boy jeans. That's why Trick Daddy was like, are those Bugle Boy jeans you wearing? He said, no, ho, that's polo. If you had some Bugle Boy jeans, you are going to get flamed. You better not wear no Bugle Boy jeans. Oh, you getting clowned. Bad. Nah. That's why he said, nah, ho, that's polo. Yeah, you wear some Bugle Boy or Izod, they kind of get you on that a little bit too. Chaps, you might be able to get away with it. That's like the underground, that's not Polo, but it's right, it's right under Polo. Ralph Lauren, it's still Ralph Lauren. So you can still get a little play. You go to Marshall's, you know what I'm saying? The sister's still gonna give you a little, but Izod, my homies told me one time, man, hey, they convinced me to go to Marshall's to get some Izod. So I go down to Marshall's and it was a joke. They was shaping me up, but I went and got the Izod shirt. And oh man, I got like a hot neon Izod shirt. They were like, bro, you could have got something great. So it was like fun and games. So I'm sitting there kind of like, oh damn, man, I done got this little janky shirt or whatever. And so they roasted me, but they got my wardrobe together over time. When you around you guys, they gonna get you together. If your collar look janky or whatever, they might roast you a little bit, but they gonna get you together. You know what I'm saying? That's like a part of the rite of passage. So you're gonna get roasted, but then they'll get you together. But not the XJ900s, man. You just, and then them shoes used to fall apart, and oh man, they were bad.
Happy section 8 housing the river blues that y'all some welfare babies. Amused at me XJ900 to pro wings, but you happy.
But you're still happy because you got a fresh pair of shoes.
Section 8 housing the river bluff. We knew that same thing down the riverside. We knew that hand-me-down clothes and surplus shoes, the new champ, nigga.
So hand-me-down and surplus shoes, the new champ, nigga. I had to add a nigga on there to emphasize. So you still feeling kind of championish a little bit because you're fresh. So you go to the surplus shoes, the new champ. Hand-me-down shoes and hand-me-down clothes and surplus shoes, the new champ, nigga. You know what I'm saying? You still, that sometimes they might roast you a little bit, be like, man, I'm still fresh. You know what I'm saying? And if it gets to where it gets disrespectful, then we can throw hands. Yeah, you go down to the Coil Center, we go down to see the Riverside, we throw hands. Or we go out to the basketball court and we throw hands. If it gets too disrespectful, that's the difference. When we were kind of coming up, there was no social media. You couldn't get on this thing and get you couldn't do it. We didn't have that. If somebody called you out, you had to take the fade, or you just gonna be labeled a BITC. You don't want that label. You could redeem it sometimes, but you couldn't. If somebody calls you out for a head up, you take it. You take it. Even if you lose, you take it. And that's one thing interesting about where we grew up at. Where we lived, it wasn't bad, quote unquote, as Franklin, and you know what I'm saying? Franklin's right down the street. But it wasn't as violent as the Franklin area and Broadway and Northside and the highs and lows and all. It wasn't as violent as there. But you were still expected to take your fades. You still couldn't, because you still went to school with some of these kids that were from those little areas. You couldn't be a coward. You see what I'm saying? You couldn't be a coward and get accepted, is what I'm saying. You still had to be able to defend yourself to a certain degree. And pretty much for the most part, like all of my friends that we grew up in Cedar Riverside and River Bluff, for the most part, most of us could fight. Most of us could fight a little bit. They probably could fight a little more than I could because they had been in more. But we were accustomed to having disagreements as men, as kids and stuff, and we get down. That was something that happened. And then we go and we play basketball. That's what we used to do. We play basketball, and if somebody gets out of line, we get down. Most of the time. That's how it would be. And we didn't really take it personal. You might have some dude, and you always got guys that didn't, you know what I'm saying? So that was when I made that song, I was thinking about all that kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? Because I do remember my father bringing us to those surplus shoes. We always had the shoes. Sometimes we go to Famous Footwear, but sometimes we go to the surplus shoes. Over north, I remember there was a shoe store. Sometimes we would go there. We would go to these different places and stuff. So, I remember her. He'd always bring us to get shoes. My mom didn't really bring us to get shoes until later when we were older. But by that time, I was already of age. You know what I'm saying? By that time, I was already of age. I was working summer jobs and stuff in ninth grade or 8th grade. Like I say, the What's Up Youth Info line. I always had a summer job. I made sure of that. I'd go down to the workforce center. I told y'all, you know what I'm saying? Like, so, you know, we didn't look. We had food, so we didn't really think about, and you got to think, I never stayed in a house. So whenever I met a black person that owned a home or stayed in a home, we used to kind of think they were like lightweight, not wealthy, but well off. We didn't stay in a house. My grandma and them had a house, so I used to always kind of look to that to esteem. But we never had a house. My dad never bought us a house, and maybe that's something he wanted to do eventually, or own property. But my mom wasn't gonna go out, like when I was telling you there was a white man that wanted to help a black family. He wanted to buy some land, and I understand why. He wanted to be able to, you know, plant crops and stuff, and that's something he probably could have did. But my mother was not. She wasn't going for it. She didn't feel. She wasn't interested in doing it because I think she felt like it was one of them kind of things where he wasn't maintaining enough to be able to do it. She wasn't sold, is what I'm saying. It's like, you know, if you're a man, and these are things is when you're kids you don't think about, because my mom never badmouthed my dad, and sometimes my dad, he be saying little stuff behind her back, like they'll have an argument and he'll get in there and be like, man, you know, that's why you got to make sure you got some money and this, that, and the third, or whatever, like if he got kicked out or whatever the case may be. So I listened to some of these different things my dad would say. So I always made sure that I had my own spot. Ain't no woman kicking me out. That was something that was engraved in my head, especially like when I left my mom's house. I used to always have women be like, hey, you want to move in with me? And nah, I'm good. I like having my, you know, and sometimes they ain't like that because I'm not under where if you get mad at me for something or whatever the case may be, I always got my own spot. That's a sense of power dynamic. You can't kick me out. So there's nothing that you can do to me that makes me feel like, you know what I'm saying? Like I got my own spot, so you can't kick me out. I'm not one of these Negroes that got to lay up with you. And I grew up seeing a lot of that. I used to see some of my friends, or I used to always see dudes, but they never had their own spot. So they were subjected to somebody. If they say, oh, you talking to somebody or you doing this, they didn't have the power to be able to just, you know what I'm saying? And I never wanted to have that. Walking up to Washington and Cedar in the cold, that afforded me to want multiple cars. So that's why I used to always have multiple cars, because I walk up in the cold to Washington and Cedar. That was a trauma factor for me. I said, no, I'm about to have several cars. Soon as I got the ability, I started buying cars because I had a fear of not getting to work on time. You see what I'm saying? I wanted to have my own place and have my own car. And then I could move and restructure my world around that. And I was able to do that. I didn't really have a situation. And that's one thing that I learned about my dad. Like, I didn't really hear him complaining a lot about not being able to have a car. He always kept a car. So he always was able to go and get some money. Or he was able to scam and do with the flim flam in order to get $1. And it might not last that long or whatever. But I just don't recall him. You know, I don't really recall him just sitting around a lot of time, just not doing anything. I don't recall him just sitting around, just listening to music or reading books or talking about voting or talking about, you know, it to him, it was just like, you know, if he was on a phone, he was with the flim flam. He was trying to convince somebody or scam somebody out of some little business idea, pyramid scheme, or whatever it was, in order to get something going. And a lot of times it didn't work or whatever, but it would be about something, trying to get something. So I used to always see he might be 5, 6 in the morning on the phone loud talking. What is he talking? What's going on? Why is he up so early? He'd be up early, military time, because it would always be something, and the people he would know would be up to, they might be up to no good. Like the guy I told you, Larry, one point, and this was supposed to go into my other session, but I'm just gonna go ahead and break it down now. The dude Larry they used to scope out the drug dealers, stuff like that. Larry, and I think I'm gonna make this a new one. I'll end it with this. Larry went down to Mississippi. He wasn't supposed to go down there because he did some flim-flammer. He did something to somebody, or he did something down there, and the sheriff told him, don't come back. It's a little different than, Minnesota or something. Down there, it's kind of old school. They just tell you, man, don't come back down here. And he came back down to bury somebody. Now, they gave him permission. Somebody said it was a governor, not a governor, but it was somebody that he called one of the authorities and said, hey, my people, they buried, they getting buried. I need to come down. He called, and as soon as he came down there, they locked him up. So that's gonna be the next story or whatnot. But that's food stamps for y'all, man. That was every story, little bits and pieces that I was telling y'all. That's kind of all disarrayed out. All came down into that song of childhood, and this food stamp analysis is pretty much like an Ed Pearson part 6, really. If you want to see it, but it's really a food stamp analysis based on that song. So I'm gonna upload that. I'm trying to stop it at the same time.
I remember them food stamps, man. Government cheese, carnation milk. Check this shit out. Strolling up to Washington and Cedar with food stamps, 2 for $1. Minute makes orange, we knew that. Hand-me-down clothes, surplus shoes, the new champ, tight Wrangler jeans. 7 more bargain, guess who's back? In 6th grade, they told us that his dad pays taxes, but this privileged fucker don't know niggas pay for that. Working in the hot sun without pay, so slave that. Kuta Kinte on your monkey ass, engrave that. Reading books at the library. Eyes scary, surprised to learn our country is savage. My dairy mixing the Netflix so restless. Playing NES shit, Duncan and Mario. We ain't have no Atari though. Young black kids brainwashed by Xena and Barbie though. Thought chivalry was alive until I met some sorry hoe. And then I realized society is cutthroat. The law ain't shit and they still don't give a fuck though. The food stamps, Minute Maid's orange, guess who's back? Paragon cable cut off, we knew that. Rain Exceed 7 mile, the food stamps. The food stamps, Minute Maid's orange, guess who's back? Paragon cable cut off, we knew that. Rain Exceed 7 mile, the food stamps. Playing ball in Matthews Park a couple years of sewer school. No TV on Friday and Saturday night, we knew the rules. Niggas getting popped for they bulls, starter jackets, looking out the window. What popped old ride through all the traffic of Frosty and Wendy's was 99 cents. And pop over to Ponderosa was hella intense. He left a few days. Mama, how we paying the rent? Pounding this VCR combo. What he saying they shit. So we walked to Washington and Cedar. We knew that. No food in the refrigerator. No food stamps, peanut butter and Nestle Quick. We'll use that, y'all some welfare babies. Amused at me, XJ 900 to Pro Wings. But you happy, Section 8 housing in River Bluff. We